This is more for the kids, but if you're able and willing, go ahead and stand on up where you're at, make some space, make some room. Let's have a little fun. You put your right foot in, you put your right foot out, you put your right foot in, and then you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey, then you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Left foot. You put your left foot in, you put your left foot out, you put your left foot in, then you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey, then you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Right arm. You put your right arm in, you put your right arm out, you put your right arm in, then you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey, then you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Left arm. You put your left arm in, you put your left arm out, you put your left arm in, then you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey, then you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Wholesale. You put your wholesale in, you put your wholesale out, you put your wholesale in, then you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey, then you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Hey, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
So Paula asked me to share a story or an experience from my life. And today, and recently I found myself thinking about Journey. So, and by that I mean the band and not the pathway. Every year there is a cover band that comes to Wilmington. It's a Journey cover band. It is a very big deal for me. I spend the weeks leading up to it listening to nothing but Journey 24/7. I have a t-shirt with all the band members' names signed on it. I have guitar picks. I've even scored a set list. It is a big deal for me. And I found myself getting curious about why that was. Like, I wouldn't say Journey's necessarily my favorite band. After this time has passed, I may hear them. I do stop in a moment of reverence and gratitude when I hear them. So I got a little curious about that, and I thought, well, maybe it's just, I found Journey kind of later on, and it was a pivotal time in my youth, so, I was that small town girl living in a lonely world. Like, maybe that's why it resonates. And then I found myself this year, as I was preparing for total fangirlness, that I found myself writing down some of the lyrics. And then I realized what I'd actually been doing and learning was that everything that I needed to know about affirmative prayer, I learned from a Journey song. For example, Awake My Soul, an affirmation, a calling to my own divinity. Always beautiful as you are, an affirmation either of seeing the God in someone else or an affirmation of self-acceptance. Broken hearts can always mend, an affirmation of healing or perhaps a practice of forgiveness. Here I am with open arms, an affirmation of surrender. And my personal favorite, nothing stands between love and you. Right? And I don't know if I can do the handheld mic because I'm shaking so hard, like it might be dropped. And really, so that nothing stands between love and you. So that affirmation, that call to oneness, to our own divinity, to awakening to who we truly are. And I found these in the little moments, in the words. And so I would invite you today to, in this moment, in this day, in this week, in this month, to find those little moments for you that connect you to who you truly are and to your spirit. And with that, I would invite us now to come into a time of prayer. Perhaps you allow your eyes to close, finding the ground beneath your feet, the chair beneath your sits bones. Just allowing the peace of this moment to enter into your being as we inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. And inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. Holy Heart of the universe, may we awaken to accept that we are as beautiful as we are. May we find the strength, the courage, and the vulnerability to stand with open arms in the midst of this human experience. And as we mend our broken hearts for ourselves and for all others, may we hold on to that feeling, that knowing, and may we never stop believing that nothing stands between love and who we are. And so it is.
That's why we're waiting on the world to change. We keep on waiting on the world to change. It's not that we don't care, we just know that the fight ain't fair. So we keep on waiting on the world to change. We keep on waiting on the world to change. We keep on waiting on the world to change. It's not that we don't care, we just know that the fight ain't fair. So we keep on waiting on the world to change. We keep on waiting on the world to change. 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 Waiting on the world to change.
All right, let me read you these soul cards. These soul cards are such an illustration and a demonstration of love, of what you have created here. So I like for you to hear what that means to people, because I didn't create it. We created it. So here's what Jeff says. Why Spiritual Soul Center? To connect with others walking the path toward enlightenment. I hope that's why we're here. What have you discovered here, or what are you hoping to find? I'm hoping to find great awareness and connection. How does it feel here, or how are you hoping it will feel? I'm hoping to feel like I walked out of a dark cave into the warmth of the sunlight. How will you enrich this space in our community? Spreading love, peace, wisdom, and resources that I can spare. Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for that. See, that's what we've created here. That possibility. I'll tell you what, it was really great for me to have Megan do that piece, because it allowed me to be fed. And I'm working with I have a life coach. I'm a life coach, but I have a life coach. And she's been telling me about how important it is. She says, well, how are you fed, Paula? How are you fed on Sunday? And I'm like, I don't know. I gotta do all this other stuff. And I was fed today. So thank you, Megan, for feeding me on a Sunday. You feed me with your love. every Sunday, and I've told her that as well, and I got fed in a different way today, so I'm grateful for that. So I want to start today's message off with this quote. Everything is on its return trip home the minute it is created. Everything is on its return trip home the minute that it comes into being. You think that's true? Everything is on its return trip home. I mean, that's the big picture of what life is about. Everything comes into the seen and it's moving toward the unseen. Certainly we are, aren't we? But we don't like to think about it much, because when we think about ourselves moving from the seen into the unseen, we think, well, we're going to lose all of this. We're going to lose this experience that we have in the physical form, and that's uncomfortable. That's uncomfortable. We don't like to think about that. But it's the truth. It's the truth about everything, really. Because I believe that everything, as soon as it's created, as soon as it's coming into being, is on its way to the unseen, is on its way out, as it were, out of that. But we like to think that we are here about a job or our family or building this or we have that, and so it becomes really about these temporary things. And the other thing we know, and see, these things I'm telling you right now are not new to you, I'm guessing. The other thing I would say to you is because we know everything is temporary. Like, we know that, but we don't live it. We don't live it. We try to make things we try to make things secure. Like, we want it to be this way. We want to have enough money. We want to have a safe place to live. We want to have enough to eat. We want our life to be easy. You know, we don't want so many bumps in the road. Okay, maybe a few, but no really big ones, right? That's the way we want it to be. We want to hold things in a pattern that we like. And that's really not the way nature works, is it? That's not the way nature works at all. The truth is, I come here, and then I return to source. Ram Dass would say, we are all just walking each other home. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we go out there and like, where's my job? Where's this? They give me my list. I like lists. I like lists. Megan and I are comparing our lists. You know, we like, well, this way. But we all think, oh, that resonates with me, we say. That resonates with me. Does it? Does it inform your life? Or does it just sound good? Because life is really about the ups and downs, the ins and outs, the lefts and the rights, the ups and overs, the hairpin turns and the four-way stops. All of it, right? All of life includes all those things. And yet we try to hold steady right here so that we find our life is easy, not too jumbled, not too agitated, right? Like I said, none of this is something you don't know. But I want us to know that if we believe that stuff, how does it impact our life? Like, how do we use it in our life? That's the thing. It's like we can know this stuff intellectually. We can know it, but how does it change the way we live our life? That's what I want to know. And the first thing I started thinking about was that it's telling me that maybe I shouldn't be fighting anything that shows up. Like, if this is really the way life is, and we're all just walking each other home, and there's twists and turns, ups and downs, lefts and rights, forward and backwards, then why should I fight anything that's in front of me? Like, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe life is about learning how to participate in whatever it is. Like, maybe that's the truth. Maybe that's how I can feel more at ease and centered and grounded and peaceful in the things I want my life to be, rather than to expect that if I had enough control and I could just do the right things all the time, this is the way it would be. You know, I went to a funeral on Saturday for someone I know. I didn't know the person who passed away, but I knew his wife. And he was 68 years old. He was diagnosed with a brain tumor, And in 2 months, he was gone. And his daughter shared at the funeral service how she was spending some time with her dad, and he said to her, "I don't know why this is happening to me. I just want to see my grandchildren grow up." Right? Of course we do. Of course we do. And here's a hairpin turn. Here's a hairpin turn with that, right? So it's how to live that. And I have to say that the little bit I know about how he chose to live those 2 months is that he really did. He might have doubted that, as he did in that statement to his daughter, like, why me? But I know from the people who shared that he also lived it to his best, those 2 months that he had. Isn't that what we really want? Because we got the hairpin turns, the stop signs, the ups and downs, the caves. We have it all. We have it all. I've decided that life is not an a la carte menu. We don't get to choose. We don't have a nice scorecard. Say, well, yes, I'll have some pain, but not a lot. Definitely not cancer. Definitely not brain tumor. All right, if I break a bone, I'll recover from that. You know, it's not an a la carte menu. It's not an a la carte menu. Things happen in their natural way of happening. It's we who resist it. So this led me, I hope you can follow all this. It was confusing to me when I was writing it a little bit, but I'm now in verse 23 after a year of reading this book, page 108, the 23rd verse of the Tao Te Ching. Listen to this. To talk little is natural. I could have stopped right there. Because look at me, I'm talking all the time when I'm here. But it says, to talk little is natural. Fierce winds do not blow all morning. A downpour of rain does not last the day. And who does that? Who does those things? Who does the wind and the rain? Well, heaven and earth does that. But these are exaggerated, forced effects. And that is why they cannot be sustained. If heaven and earth cannot sustain a forced action, how much less is man able to do it? Wow. And here we are, sometimes with our a la carte menu, trying to force the way things should be, when we know from looking at nature that that is not possible even for heaven and earth, even for the divine, even for the creative power in the universe. It is not sustainable. So who are we to think that that's possible in our life to sustain anything? Anything. I was thinking about how we can apply that to nature. I mean, think about bees. When you poke a bee's nest, there is a lot of buzzing going on, right? But how long does it last? It lasts as long as it lasts, and then it goes back into the rhythm of the nest, doesn't it? Yeah, it goes back into that rhythm. What about fire ants? Yeah, you all know, poke, poke, they're all over the place. But does it last? Does that intensity and that exaggeration last? No, it doesn't last, does it? I also thought about jazz soloists. Have you ever been to a jazz concert and, you know, the drummer does one thing and then the sax player and then the bass player, and they're all like really energetic when they're on their solo, and then what happens? They go back in that rhythm, and pretty soon the whole band does that. They go to their, in music, crescendo, and then they come back to this, right? It's the natural way of things. It's the natural way of things. Right now, there is a lake in Death Valley. Death Valley is one of the driest, most desolate places on the earth. But Hurricane Hillary hit the Southern California area, and because Death Valley is some 200 and some feet below sea level, all the water ran there, or a lot of the water, some of the water at least, ran there. And there's a 1 to 2 inch lake in Death Valley. How long do you think it's going to last? Not long. You know, then the article said, well, by mid-November it'll be gone. Okay? The intensity of that happened, but it's not going to last forever. The intensity doesn't last forever. I was even thinking about, because this has been weighing on my mind so much, about the war in Israel and Gaza. That the bombs, the intensity of it doesn't last. It comes, it causes extreme devastation, and then the wounded are cared for, the dead are buried, the humanitarian aid shows up, and there is a new rhythm to life after that. I wouldn't call it normal. There's nothing normal about war, but there's a new way of being that emerges out of that extreme activity. This is the natural way of being. This is what the Tao is talking about, that there's a natural way of being, and we don't have to get caught up in the intensity or the exaggerated or the forced nature of things in our life. I even, last week I wasn't here, I was at Lake Gaston with my family, and they had a great screened-in porch on this big house on the lake up there. It was gorgeous. I got up in the morning, I watched the moon set over the lake. It was just tremendous. As the sun was rising, the moon was setting, the lake was lapping up against the edge. But as we proceeded, as the morning came into view, the darn crows were chasing a hawk. All in the sky. 2 or 3 of them chasing this hawk. The hawk's just gliding like, diving at him like this. The hawk would land in the top of a tree. It'd still dive, But you know what? It didn't last forever. It didn't last forever. The hawk settled into a tree somewhere. The crows went wherever they went, and the morning was quiet again. You see, that's nature's way. That's nature's way. And so what the Tao is asking us to do is to live our life in a more natural way. To not, for instance, judge those things as good or bad, to realize that they are going to happen, but to participate in them in the best way we know how. Because that's what happens in life. Things boil over, things come to a head, all hell breaks loose, right? Those things happen. You know what else happens that's exaggerated? Complete exhilaration. Crossing the finish line first and just feeling that your team winning the Super Bowl, you know that. Smiling so much that your cheeks hurt, but it doesn't last. Those are exaggerated times. Eventually things find their rhythm in a different place, in a different way. Right? That's what happens in life. The agitation and the exhilaration are temporary. We can take our cues from the Bible as well, where Jesus is talking about, why do you worry about your life? Have you ever noticed the lilies of the field? That one day they're beautiful and the next day they're cut down and thrown in the fire? That's what happens. That's the nature of things. Or the birds of the air, they don't worry about where their next meal is coming from. They just do their thing. Caw. Right? But no, we have to worry about what we wear or what we're going to eat. No, what the scripture is saying is, notice what nature does and do that. It's the same thing the Tao is saying. You know, there's not this, these kinds of lessons and these kind of truths and this kind of wisdom transcend these religious parentheses. It's everywhere. Follow nature. That's what it's about. Let me read the last verse of the Tao, of this 23rd verse. Open yourself to the Tao. In the scripture, in the Jesus quote, it would be the Father or the kingdom of God. Right? Your God knows what you need. The Tao is there. Open yourself up to that. Align yourself with that and trust your natural response. Because you have a natural response if you take a minute for it, and everything will fall into place. As long as you're not too particular about what place that is. All right? Here's the other thing that we get stuck on sometimes, and that is that we call something good or bad, but the thing hasn't changed. Let me give you an example. During the summer, everybody wants to park in the shade. I want to get here first. I want to park in the shade because it's hot in my car when I come out. January, need a sunspot. Be nice and toasty when I come out of Spiritual Soul Center. So is the sun good or is the sun bad? Yeah? The sun is the sun. You make it good or bad, right? So this is another thing. Nature is nature. That's it. It's nothing else. Rain is another good one. Rain is another good one. If I'm Renee and we have this garden back here, bring it on. Nice light rain. You know, anytime. Anytime. Getting married that day on the beach? I don't know about the rain. No plan B for the rain. No plan B for the rain. How about cold water? Renee and I were camping at Jordan Lake State Park up outside of Raleigh, and the showers at the campground were motion sensor cold water. So not only were they motion sensor and you had to be... It was cold. It was cold. We did not like the cold water. Sam, working out in the garden in the middle of August, pulling things around, cold water on the face, oh, bring it on, right? Glass of cold water, bring it on. Cold water, good or bad? Yeah, neither one. Steep hill. Steep hill. Hiking, steep hill. Long steep hill. Sled riding on the snow. Steep hill. Yes. You see what I mean? Nature. Nature has this to tell us when we take a look at it. We don't have to judge it based on what we want on our a la carte list. All right? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Here's what Wayne Dyer says. The way is responsible for everything. In other words, God, the Spirit, divine, whatever you call it, with a naturalness about it that isn't forced. It reminds you that what seems so devastating in the moment is benevolent perfection in another. Yeah, it's benevolent perfection in another. So it's useful to keep in mind. It's useful to keep in mind. Here's what he also says about this verse. Change your life by actively observing nature's way. I mean, look at nature. You don't have to believe me. You don't even have to believe what I'm reading here. Look at nature. What does it tell you and how does it apply to your life? See how the thunderstorms or fierce winds are temporary conditions that pass instead of thinking that they are destructive or inconvenient events. When what seems like a forceful, uncomfortable situation for you, seek the natural cycle of it and affirm, this is temporary. I'm going to release myself from having to be the person in control. That is a full-time job for me. Full-time job for me. Then observe what you're feeling with openness to what is. Remember, that's what nature does. Nature doesn't judge themselves. I judge myself. You might judge yourself, but nature just says, no judgment about it. Center your mind in a natural way, in perfect rapport with the patience of the universe, of the Tao, of God. Your body knows how to be at peace and wait out the storms of life. But you need, and I need, to allow myself to feel that. To feel and welcome that naturalness. To be still and allow myself to be in harmony with the flow of the Tao. It's a practice. It's not a rule. I would never be giving this message to anyone close to Ukraine or Israel or Gaza and say, oh, all you have to do is do this. This is the preparation for when that happens in my life. I'm inviting you to practice this as an invitation so that we find a place, a compass of sorts, for when the rock hits the bottom, when I drop it on my toe, that I have some compass to go toward. That's what it is. That's why it's not a rule. It's a practice. And so I invite you into that practice. I invite you into that practice in what the Tao says is the natural way of being, by simply observing nature. All I have to do so often is to observe our cat. I mean, that's it. That's it. If you're a cat person, you know. It's like, we always say to our May, it'd be great if we could put you to work somehow. But right now, she's like this in the sun somewhere. The naturalness of nature. So let's take that into our quiet time this morning. I invite you to get comfortable in your chair and to simply be present at this moment, to take a deep breath in and out and realize that in you and in me is this Tao, is this spirit, is this divine pulse of life, this universal love. It's whatever you call it, this unseen presence. That from the minute we are created, we are moving back toward that. And in the meantime, we have a choice. We have a choice about how we live the storms of our life. We can live them the way nature teaches us to live them. We can endeavor to follow, to align with and trust and follow what we feel from within. We have that choice, no matter what it looks like on the outside. In preparation for the big storms, for the ones that might blow us off our feet. So let's just sit for a moment, breathing in and breathing out. We'll close our time with this from T.S. Eliot. Because I know that time is always time, and place is always and only place, and what is actual only for one time and only for one place, I rejoice that things are as they are. To rejoice in the stillness of God. Amen.
Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let them keep me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around. 'Cause all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't wanna fight no more. There'll be no more war and our children will play. One day, one day, one day. One day, one day, one day. One day this all will change, when people will say, stop with the violence and down with the hate. One day we'll all be free and proud to be under the same sun, singing songs of freedom like yeah, 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 yeah. All my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't wanna fight no more. There'll be no more war, and our children will play. One day, one day, one day. One day, one day, one day. Come on, sing that with me. Say one day, one day, one day. One day, one day, one day. If you believe that, sing. One day, one day, one day. One day, one day, one day.